Jenny. I am excited to be back with a new video. It's been a couple years that I've taken a hiatus after COVID, and so now I'm back to share a new video and some new products on the new team for Brutus Monroe for 2023. And I'm excited about trying a bunch of their new products and new materials, and so we're going to get started with just a little side project for me using this adorable Chameleon I Can Be Anything stamp set that's like a 3x4. It's just a simple set with just the one image and a sentiment, but I love the possibilities that you could do coloring it, and just the obviously just the sentiment itself is great for some people I have in mind. So I'm going to take this Brutus Monroe Not Your Mama's cardstock, which is great, thick, heavy cardstock, to create a couple 4x 4 1/4 by 5.5 cards. And I'm going to use that as my card base, and then I'm going to use a couple pieces of Tim Holtz Distress cardstock, watercolor cardstock, for the Chameleon images. I'm going to do two the same, except that I'm going to paint them a little bit differently. One with a sort of loose, splotchy watercolor, and one that is kept more in between in the lines. I am going to use the Stick and Stamp mat from Brutus Monroe in my MISTI. Not really because obviously it needs to necessarily stay stuck like it would for a stencil, but because I accidentally broke a couple of the magnets that are normally in the MISTI, so I'm using the smaller magnets, and also because I'm using this watercolor cardstock on the rough side, and it is really toothy, and so it needs several impressions with ink. I'm using the Brutus Monroe Raven detail ink, which is great and does give you all the detail of a fine ink, but it also is waterproof and great for alcohol markers and everything else. And I don't believe I even tried to dry it or anything before I painted it. So that's good. I'm going to use the little cleanup, stamp cleanup, one of the Tonic things that that Brutus Monroe sells. It's the Squeaky Clean mat, and it comes in. You can get this great little dispenser thing for it. That's kind of like a makeup remover bottle. Might need another one of those for makeup remover. Okay, so now I've got my chameleons set out, and I'm going to start to watercolor them. I am going to use the Aqua pigments from Brutus Monroe, and I'm just gonna they're just little squeeze bottles. I'm going to squeeze a couple drops into my palette, and then some of them I'll mix, but most of them I'll pretty much just use straight from the bottle and maybe dilute with a little bit of water. They have, I've bought a bunch of colors, and there are several really good, like turquoise and a blue-green and blue-violet. So there's not a lot of mixing for the colors that I really wanted to concentrate on this image for. So I've got some brushes, and this is my water media mat from Waffle Flower, which unfortunately has some pretty good stains from some really powerful ink there on the right. So I'm going to zoom in here a little bit, and you see I did spray some water into each of those little wells just to dilute it just a tiny bit. I'm going to use, this is the one I'm going to paint within the lines, and so I'm going to use these aqua pigments and just do some random colors in this little chameleon guy. I love this stamp set because it's just, there's lots of things it could be used for. I think it's really sort of trendy and colorful, and it has a powerful message that's great for some teenagers in our life right now. I did take a big break after or during COVID, and still kind of getting back into it, but we had, some homeschooling and some sick people and sick family, and so that sort of took precedent, but I really missed my creative time, and I'm excited to get back into it. So that was the one card within the lines. And now you saw I just dropped some water onto this card, and I'm just sort of sloppily placing some colors on it. I don't want to make it too muddy, so I'm trying to keep it clean and a little bit just really minimal, not overwork it too much. The only color that sort of gave me any trouble was the yellow, and I think it was just because I was dipping in the same water and used a little bit of the green for it, so it didn't stay as sort of vibrant yellow. I wish I had used an orange maybe for the eyes. I think it would be good next time. But after that, I splattered a couple little splatters on it, and now I'm going to go back after they're dry, this first kind of go around, and just add a little bit of detail to areas like some shadow and just some areas like that on both of the cards. Just get a little bit of deeper color there. And it kind of looks like he's perched on something, the way his feet are. So I'm going to end up using a pencil and a pen just to trace in a little bit of a stick or a branch that he's perched on, just to give it a little bit of grounding before I use the sentiment too. These are great pigment inks to watercolor with because they are very vibrant and they're very smooth, and they dry well in the palette, so then you can just reactivate them with a little bit of water. So they really go a long way. I've mostly used them this way, and not so much in a bigger way as far as like art journaling yet, but that's next. Okay, so now I'm going to reuse my MISTI here to stamp the sentiment. I'm actually going to heat emboss it with some Brutus and Monroe embossing clear ink, sticky ink, and then using the black embossing powder in Raven. Sometimes it's easier to do a black ink and then heat emboss with a clear embossing powder to get that. It's hard to, especially with the dust in my craft room, it's hard to get a good, a good impression or a good embossing without getting a lot of extra leftover sort of, spots of the black. But since this is kind of loose anyway, and there's some other splotches on it, it didn't bother me that much. And somehow it actually didn't end up being too bad. I've got a piece of paper that I use for the mounting the card bases on, or these cards onto a card base, and it's just a piece of sort of a teal turquoise specialty paper that's textured, that's kind of been in my stash from Tonic. So you can see that's the little stick I drew on there just to give him a little place to perch. I did the exact same on both cards, and I just went over it in ink to give it a little bit of definition. I don't even color it, I just leave it kind of just like that. Just need to ground it a little bit. I don't think you have to necessarily, but I just wanted to add it like that. And I have, I'm going to kind of layer them on top of this turquoise paper and then the white card base. I'm going to add a little bit of shimmer pen. Maybe not now. I'm going to trim that down a little bit. This is the card base is a traditional A2 size card that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I usually trim down the top piece to be 1/4 of an inch smaller on each side. So it just gives me a little bit of a border, a white border. I may have trimmed it a little bit smaller than this so that I could have a little bit of the white and then some of this turquoise paper. I'm just going to use this red double stick tape. I'm actually run out of a lot of adhesive, so I did order a giant roll of the foam adhesive that's like the size of, a small dog. So I added that onto that, and then I'm going to add, this is a shimmer pen there on the eye, and then some other little areas. I do go back and add some glossy accents over just the eye to make it really give it some shine and a little bit of dimension. I don't think I show that though. Here are the final cards, and thanks for sticking by me with this sort of dive back into videos, and I'll be making more videos and hopefully a couple new series and maybe even some lives after this. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you'd like to,